let's get you to the end of the rope.
Okay.
So close. Okay, that's time.
Alright, and if I can come get just put weight on the basket, hands on, a little bit of weight.
I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, watch your face.
It's okay.
Look down.
Get some of that dirt out at least, huh?
Gotcha.
Like that better? Slipped up. Okay, now we've got all three ropes free.
Okay.
Where do you want them to hang and attach? Okay, right here.
Yeah, that'd be good right there.
Do
You're learning.
I know.
I'm getting pretty funny.
We can put the black one on this here.
I know,
Okay.
not today, lad. Gotta be a little bit older.
There we go.
That'd be funny if it opens to your face though. I tried, doesn't.
Oh, dang.
I was really hoping it was gonna hold it real funny. I don't know, like, so yeah, so
There's no way to contact me. I was gonna say, I can't just give you yours. I think mine pretty good at it. I'm trained.
Alright. Okay, Sam, I'm going to have you come around the front here. There's a step stool right there. There's no real graceful way to do this. You just kind of, you can grab a hold of
There's
these
not a-
things, you can grab a hold of this top piece, and then just step on in.
Whoa!
Yep, just like that.
Oh, it's like getting on a horse.
I'll probably have you stay over here in this corner for the moment.
Got two. Got your hat
camera.
Right?
Huh?
Said you're on
What?
camera. Warn her.
Is it? It's okay. It's not your fault.
So while he's there for a second, I'm gonna go over real quick briefing. While we're in flight, you can grab a hold of these handles. You can put your hand on this tank. You can hold the uprights, of course. What you don't need to grab is do not grab these black hoses. Don't grab any of these lines. Any of these lines. Same thing with the black hoses on this side. But otherwise, you can totally hold on to the uprights. And while we're in flight, it's pretty smooth. When we come into the landing, we'll practice that right now. What you'll do is you'll grab one hand on this handhold, another on that one, and then you're going to bend your knees like you're skiing a little bit.
Okay.
All right, so that way if there's any little bounce, they'll absorb that bounce, okay? And so that's pretty much your landing position.
Okay.
And hey, buddy.
I really want to ride.
I know, next time.
Yeah, you need to be older. A little bit bigger too.
All right.
What I am gonna have you take are these, because I'd look down and they drop. I can see that. Okay. But I will I'll go, oh, and then boom, and then, oh. Those are my favorite ones.
Oh, can't get those back.
Nope.
Hey. Up. Up.
They're at like 8,200 and they're barely getting a little tiny bit of an ease.
Right.
It's like everyone's heading north from first.
Yep. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, you have to go high, but they're not getting anything.
Right.
He's like, we're pretty much just going south. South.
Excited? Me too. First time in a hot air balloon? Me too. It's a little joke, little pilot joke. I'm ready for you.
Have fun. Love you. Love you.
Shake yourself up.
Right. We're gonna let Dave in over here.
Okay. I'm ready.
Still got a 90 on that, just FYI. Okay, I went over a bit of a passenger briefing.
Mm-hmm. Heard that.
All right. So we're gonna start getting hot here.
Okay.
Hey Travis, am I clear above?
Yep, you got a Terry right there.
Okay.
You're clear above you.
All right, thank you.
Do you want a water?
Thank you. Could you grab me those waters that are on? Thank you.
Mommy, look at I folded it.
Good job.
They're on the trailer hitch there. Yep.
And you guys can feel free to hang out and help Joe. He's got,
All right, thank you.
I think just Phil's with him. So.
Let's get green. Let's go.
close. And here we go. We're flying.
All right, so tell me a little bit about your flight plan.
Well, it seems like to get any of that east, that they were saying that they're about 8,200.
Okay.
To get, because he was over here.
Uh-huh.
And so I think that I'll probably go ahead and
Okay.
get up there before we get too far south,
I agree.
and just see if we can't start getting our
So let's do an ascent rate of between 350 and 400 feet a minute.
okay.
And you were saying, Amanda said he was at 82?
Yes, but he was going slower there.
Okay.
Flying.
Landing on the right.
Springs Tower, this is Hot Air Balloon November 74008.
Hot Air Balloon 74008, Springs Tower, Colorado Springs, altimeter 301.
November 74008, copy that, thank you.
Runway 35 left, clear. Take off. That's 40 feet left. Hot air balloons operating west of the field.
Where's Terry?
Terry is right here. Oh, okay, got it.
How's your ascent rate?
About where we were talking about, you said 35 to 4.
Okay. Yeah, I think 400 feet a minute's a good rate because it'll allow us to feel the layers but not stick too long in them, you know? And Corey's got a pretty good track out there, doesn't
He
he?
does.
Did Amanda happen to mention what direction he had?
She said it was slightly, no, she didn't give me a number, but she
Okay.
said slightly east at 8,200 feet.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to start to turn, right?
Right. He's definitely going south now.
Yep.
Right, clear to the option, LA 01.
What a gorgeous day.
It is. Appreciate you coming out, Dave.
Runway 940, unable landing at Alpha 5 time due to traffic taxi now. Runway,
So that's Pikes Peak behind us there.
runway 353.
It's at the top of that thing is at 14,110 feet. It's America's Mountain right there. Right, ears popping a little bit. Came up pretty quick.
No, 4310 contact. Departure.
first wheel to lift off.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine.
If you can get sort of through the first few minutes, then you're all right.
Gets on.
Okay,
We're south.
We're starting to make the turn now. We've got about 185, and we were going about 220, so we're starting to get that left turn. If we can find something as dramatic as about a 160, then our life gets really easy.
Right.
And I feel like we've got way more left than Terry does, because Terry looks to me like he's escaping to the right. Okay, what would you say about rounding out about 8,500 and holding it there for a while?
Okay.
So if you had to guess, what do you think our envelope temperature is now?
You know, Dave, with us not having...
Don't have a feel for it
I
yet.
don't have a feel for it yet.
Given the
220
temperature,
is my average guess.
right? Given the weight and the temperatures and all those sorts of things, size of the balloon, if I had to guess, we're flying about 215, 220 today.
Okay.
And because we've been flying, I would guess around 200.
Yeah.
And good rule of thumb is every passenger adds about 20 degrees.
Okay. Okay.
This feels like a good track to me. What do you think?
Slow, but the right direction.
Yep. So yep, let's just hang tight on that 8,500 and we'll let us just soak here for a little bit and see how it unfolds. So in the practical test standards, if your examiner were to give you that kind of an instruction, stay at 85, how much can you vary?
100 feet either way. Up or
Yep,
down.
plus or minus. plan to take that instrument home with me and troubleshoot it a little bit and see what's going on.
Okay. Turtle too, how you take it?
Yeah. Yeah, the only way to calibrate it is to have a pair
Sure.
together.
Right.
Is it my imagination or does the lake have water in it?
It's starting to.
That's
Yeah.
new.
Yes. I noticed it just a couple days ago.
Very exciting.
Yes. So you're talking about that body of water out there. It's been dry for what, 4 years, 5 years?
It's been a while. I was gonna say 3, maybe
Three,
20,
three to
2017. I don't know. Boy, yeah. If they're filling it up now, then when we start to get the spring rains, it'll be nice. But I still see all those sort of dirt piles up on the north end, like they're.
Yeah, I was surprised that there was some at all.
And it might be as simple as just testing the gates, you know.
Right. If you feel any water dripping, it's just that. It's just water. Condensation from the heat against the turbine.
Okay, Meg is down low. She's just crossing Academy now. Jerry came up to hang out with us. One of the nice things about this altitude is you can start to see the Sangre de Cristo Mountains.
Yes.
It's neat when you can see all three ranges stacked up against each other.
Those are basically on the border of New Mexico.
Yeah, they're 100 miles away, right?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with left traffic failure 01.
Like Terry's got more left.
You think because he's a little bit higher than us?
I'm thinking that. That's a military jet. F-15. I'm gonna take us up a little bit higher and see if we can't get some more of that left.
Okay. He doesn't use up much of that runway, does he?
No, no, he doesn't need it.
So just to sort of get your bearings, you can see this is
85?
this is 85, and it goes and it kind of straightens out there.
Yeah.
That lake is the lake on sort of what I would call the other side of that big farmer that remember where we
JV
lost
ranches?
the yeah, where we dropped the book.
Yep, JV Ranches.
Yep. And the big black squares that you're seeing are solar fields.
Okay.
And when I talked to the Colorado Springs Utilities folks, I was asking specifically about the one out by the dump, which is Squirrel Creek. It's out there. But they were real clear though. Yeah, we'd rather you not land sort of inside the fence of our solar fields, just because we worry about damage and all that kind of thing.
Let's go see that airplane right there.
But they said they were totally cool with us being on their property.
Okay, that's good.
Check our direction again. Yeah, we're slowly curving. We're down to about 140, 145, something like that. Certainly encouraging. Gets us back into familiar territory at that rate, right? And we've picked up quite a bit of speed. We're going about 18 now. That is so cool.
Love airplanes.
Just watching him turn and come in under us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kind of everything that flies is exciting to me. Explain that to you, Sam. How you doing? Doing good? Enjoying the view?
I'm looking at Meg over here in that kind of open space. Do you see her?
Yes.
She is just about going nowhere. I mean, it looks like she's nearly dead calm. I think she did get a little bit of a north turn on the ground. Similar to what we did, which is contrary to the steam off the power plant.
I feel like she's coming south.
Yeah, I agree. She's sort of went from the open space into that road behind the building there.
Reading on this tank behind you here. Just to make sure we're good. Okay.
Okay, so I'm assuming you probably haven't memorized the entire PZ map.
No.
But let me point out a couple of highlights that are worth knowing.
Okay.
So you can visualize where Memorial Park is, and coming straight down 85, there's a number of different events on the map, if you will. So this area here, south of the two lakes, this is all Venatucci Farms.
Yeah.
And this, where it's skinny up there north of this smaller lake, that is Pinello Farms. So they want us to avoid that. But in this wide open area, that is accessible to us now, primarily because they've stopped farming.
Oh, okay.
At least for a while. And then obviously you can see the entrance to Fort Carson. Fort Carson owns everything from this road south.
Right.
If you look at this sort of gigantic field here with the little triangle and then the gigantic field, both of those are accessible and they are not red, so they're both fine. And there is a just get my bearings, know where I am here. There. That's that road.
Right. We're right over the Leatherman Gate area here.
Yep. There was a field I was going to point out because it looks super attractive and I'm not seeing it right away. I think maybe we're not far enough south yet. No, I think I see it. You see the big white roof here?
Yep.
The field to the right of that, I think that's a PZ.
Okay, behind the shopping center?
Yep. I'm gonna pull out my map here in a minute, but I think that's the one.
I landed in there with Sean once, but what's that one?
Yeah, and I think it's only part of it that's. Let me just pull out the map so I can be sure. Okay, and we've picked up a little bit more of a right turn again. We're about 156. We dropped down. Oh, we did drop down. Okay, we were up around 89.
Should I go back up?
I think so. Okay, yep.
That's a red zone?
So if you look at the shopping, shopping center field is fine.
Yeah.
If you cross over that road,
Right, Mesa Ridge or
that
whatever.
next big long shape with all the trees in it, that's
yeah.
red.
Oh, okay.
The field on the south of that is green.
Right.
Because in those trees, there's about 50 horses.
Oh, okay.
This little triangle piece is fine, but access is difficult into there.
We put Erin down there once.
Yep, she landed right along that road, I think.
I guess there's a little bit of freezing going on that lake.
Yeah, it looks like it's. I didn't think it got that cold last night, but maybe it just hasn't warmed up. Yeah, this is better. We've got about a 145 up here, Scott.
Okay.
Okay, so you've got. Let's maintain 9,000. And then go ahead and take a look at Terry.
Yeah, he's definitely going west.
I think it's yes, and
we're
it's an
going
optical
east.
illusion. I think we're headed this direction.
Right.
If I had to guess, he's actually going southwest.
Sure.
And so the spread between those two trajectories is what we see. And Corey is sort of way down there. So tell me a little bit about your landing options. What do you think is a viable plan here?
This direction we can given that there's seeming to be a westerly wind down toward the surface, if we get far enough east over here across Mark Sepulveda, and we've got those areas that are out toward Squirrel Creek Road. And, the further we take it that way, then we've got more running room to come back this way.
Okay.
And we could stay potentially on, if we can get east of Link and past that, there's, good accessible area out by JB Ranches there.
Right.
I went quite a bit up.
Yep.
But
That's
I
okay.
think we're getting a better left there.
Yeah, I actually feel the same way. We're about 135. So at these speeds,
Yeah.
26 knots right now,
Okay.
things will happen quickly
Yes.
in terms of your trajectories and that kind of thing, And so it's really difficult to see what Terry's doing.
Right.
Because it feels like he must be going north. He might be, probably not.
Right.
At these speeds, he's probably just slowed way down and we're overtaking him. And you'll notice at these altitudes that you're going to have to burn a fair bit more to just maintain.
Yes.
And, you know, it slips away quickly. So I'm looking at sort of, if I think about this area on the north side of Mark Scheffel and Link, remember on the south side is that big PZ.
Yeah.
And then this lake is sort of another open area. So I think what I would be thinking right now is that right about the time we get to this road, which I don't remember the name of it, Mesa Ridge maybe?
Oh, the one that we're about to go over?
Yep. So we'll get just a little bit more south. And then I think we'll drop down and see what the ground wind is doing.
Okay.
And that gets us hopefully avoiding the PZ, avoiding some of those difficult areas out by the dump, that kind of a thing. And we typically see the ground wind calm down out here, right? So we're in a fairly quick layer now, but we would anticipate that as we go down, we'll feel that wind in our face and our horizontal speed will stop.
Okay.
Okay, let's go ahead and start that descent.
Okay.
And what I'd recommend is let's just start it by letting the balloon cool.
Sure.
And go ahead and let us descend about 600 feet a minute.
Got it.
And so we'll sort of, I'll say, accelerate to 600, and then you can just catch it there. And I think that will actually keep us in this sort of desirable neighborhood area because you've done such a good job getting so much left. And so now, isn't it amazing how, well, we're going to descend, but we've now crossed that road.
Right.
And we're accelerating towards Link. We think we're going to turn around, but even if we descend and keep going that way, that's okay. We just don't want to get way out there. 600. Excellent. That's good.
Yeah, I got to 7, so
What you'll find is this balloon, when Erin and I tested it, with she and I, we could get it to go about 1,000 feet a minute.
okay.
And it started to become, I'll say unstable, although that's too strong a term,
Right.
at about 900, 950.
Okay.
So we can absolutely push it as hard as you want. I'm comfortable anywhere around those speeds. Okay, now notice that we've got our right turn back, so now we're going almost straight south along Link.
Yeah. I do feel like we're definitely heading west again. Yeah, like Link is coming up on us.
Yep, we're currently going 190. And so when you think about how high we were,
Yeah.
you can start now to get the feel for how long it takes to get down.
Right.
Because we started
Sure.
before we hit that road, and now we've eaten up all of this field and falling at 600 or 700 feet a minute, right?
Right.
So,
Descending.
yeah. And logically, you want to believe that 600 feet a minute is really fast, but it's not.
Right.
Especially when you got 3,000 feet to work with.
Right.
Okay, but I do sense we're bleeding off a lot of that speed. We're down to about 8 knots. Currently have a heading of 200. Okay, and Terry is actually not descending all the way down. But what I would like us to do is to descend all the way down to what I would call sort of safe treetop level.
Okay.
We'll see what kind of a turn we get, and then we'll start looking for a landing and see where that takes us. So right down here around the corner, so everything left is a PZ.
Oh, right. Yep.
And then over here you can see a number of horse activities. And a few of these neighbors, basically if you can visualize these lots, sort of, the first one's fine, and then you got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Those 4 lots, we've labeled as yellow.
Okay.
Now, I don't actually, if what I'm seeing is correct, I don't think we'll actually get there. But in an ideal world, what I envision happening, if we can continue a solid rate of descent, then we were going this way, we've turned, and now we're actually going to start swooping back.
Right.
And we'll head up towards sort of the parking lot, the houses, that kind of ring, if you will. And the way I visualize this type of maneuver, since we don't really know what the ground wind is doing, is I start to get a 360 view, and I start thinking, well, yeah, I'm right over this prohibited zone, but that's fine.
Right.
First of all, we know they're not running cattle, they're just a pain in the butt.
Yes.
So from a safety standpoint, we could land. And we know we can land anywhere out here.
Right.
Access is a little tricky in this area.
Right.
But boy, you get out to the parking lot in the soccer field, you get up into those houses,
Yeah.
and you get north up into where Travis is parked.
Yeah.
All of that. So now I start to develop a 360 view that really takes my stress level down.
Right.
Because I'm thinking, well,
Got
kind of no matter what we do,
what happens.
it'll be cool. So now we're getting that north track again. And we know that we don't have any PZs up in here, right? The only thing that's close to a PZ is this house right up there.
Yeah.
And which is a little bit of a bummer because it's such a beautiful field, but that's all right. All right, so now we've made the turn back north. So we've avoided that big PZ.
Right.
And like I say, I think, I've been wrong most of the time, but I think as you descend all the way down to the ground level, it will almost stop. Travis gave up on you though.
I did. I saw it.
That's right.
That's no something I don't. He's pretty good.
So this field used to be accessible, and you can see this road that goes into where they dump all the trash. It goes through that fence, there's no gate, and it goes up and around and through those trees, and there used to be an entrance right around in there or right around at the base of the gravel pit. But I think you told me once that that's locked now.
Yes.
That's too bad. Because I remember Chris and I landed here during his flight review, and we landed, I think we just crossed over the fence and landed on a road, or landed on the road just, it was right around it up in here, and the crew came right to us. Okay, so now we're leveled out pretty well. Let's keep descending all the way to the ground.
Okay.
Because you'll see now we're getting this kind of a track, right?
Right.
Which at this trajectory is fine because we know we've got all of this
Right.
in front of the houses, in north of the houses, and behind the houses, which is fine. We know that this field over here is accessible, right? You've picked me up
Yep.
there a couple of times. Where it gets tricky is if we start to go that direction.
Right.
So, we were at about 60, 162 when we had that track, I think. And now we've got a 020 at 3. Just as a visual reference, remember you've got trees under you. So as you're scanning out on this beautiful
Right.
flat ground, you've got a 100-foot obstacle right here.
Sure, thank you.
That's one of those cases where you get target fixated where you're headed, and you sometimes lose that short, you know. It makes me sad how much people just don't trust. It's clearly become a common thing, right? So notice that now we're back at that lower altitude, and now you're burning as though we're up at 9,000.
Right.
Yep, cow season has started again. You can see just a couple of babies in there. The calving season is normally around March and April.
Used to live on a farm.
And that's important to us because in our experience, cows are super friendly,
Yes.
and they actually aren't bothered by balloons at all. But the calves we worry about.
Yes.
So I like how that, I'll call it an aggressive descent, although it didn't feel very aggressive, right? Got us right back in here in the middle of this nice open space, and we've got 360 degrees of landing areas. And so now, thinking about if you were doing, you know, sort of your ride business,
Yeah.
we're right around the 40-minute mark.
Right.
So now it's like,
looking for landing.
start looking, and any of these areas work. Like I say, this field used to work, but, and it may again now that we have cows in here. We haven't had cows in here in a couple of years. And I don't see cows on Diamond Ring, which is very encouraging. Diamond Ring is this big PZ here.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little breeze on the back of my neck.
Agreed.
And you can see where the power lines start.
Yes.
That's sort of the end of the viable landing spots on the other side of the road.
Right.
Good rule of thumb is that last house is fine. Any of these houses are fine, but as soon as you go to the right, you're in that PZ. And then this field, again, totally safe. That church is very accessible if we
Right.
get that far. If we get that far to the right, I mean.
Definitely heading 190, 200 again.
Yep. Pick some leaves off the trees.
Right.
And you can you see the road that comes in off of Link towards the church? It comes north, straight off that intersection. And so everything to the right of that is pretty accessible.
Crazy how different altitudes we go totally different directions. I really got weird on that way.
That is not household trash.
No.
That looks more like a
Those really
quasi-construction company bringing.
broken stuff.
Yeah.
Tires.
Like, oh, there's trees here. Nobody will see it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a huge environmentalist, but it does irritate me when people just abuse it like
I
that.
agree.
So when Scott got you in the basket, did he give you a briefing on what landing might be like? Okay, good. This is the difference between 9,000 and 6,000.
All right. I got some water here. You want some water?
Okay, now I would recommend getting all the way down on the deck.
Okay.
And I think you're headed to that open spot right near the road. You can, so you can see the east-west fence and then the north-south fence.
Yeah, I see the east-west.
Okay, the north-south goes all the way up into this field.
Oh, I see it.
Little
There,
T-bars.
there, yeah.
If you get south of that east-west fence, I think it's accessible. And you can see that this is just kind of scrub in here. So from my standpoint, you can land whenever you are ready, and I believe it's accessible. And Travis can come prove me wrong.
GoPros everywhere.
That was a little bit too much.
Yeah. This spin is like 270 degrees. Got a little extra heat to bleed.
Could be wrong. Maybe we have to get all the way past that camper in the dirt down there.
Yeah, I feel like we need to be on that side of the road.
Yep. It's very. We've had landowners sort of claim that, oh, the balloon spooked my cows. Like, probably not, unless you've got super neurotic cows. I've flown around a whole lot of cows, and they're pretty friendly. So yeah, I agree. This track is real good into that field, and just sort of the big trees, your only obstacle. The thing to be aware of is that there's power lines along the next road, so if you don't feel comfortable in this field, you'd want to make that call and bail very quickly. Now, one strategy you can do, for example, if as we come down you feel like you get a left turn, you can land because it's so calm, and then we can just walk you over the fence. And so now you want to be in your landing position and have your vent line ready. Okay, in close proximity, I see big tree, the little tree, the medium tree, the fence that goes across.
Yeah.
Once you cross that fence, then there's only a bush. There's no big deal. There is a wellhead that's tucked up right close here. I don't know if you can see the
Okay.
white cap there.
Yep.
Not an issue for us at all. And what you want to do is you want to be tracking at whatever you think is the minimum safe altitude
Yeah.
to avoid both of these obstacles.
Right.
We've had a steady track, so chances of getting a hard turn into that tree are pretty small. So now that we're parallel, you can start creeping that down. Chances of a left turn into that tree, it's possible. And then, like I say, this fence is the real deal. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and descend and land in this field, then we'll give Travis a chance to see if he can get in. We'll go from there.
So go ahead and I'll have you grab both those. Make sure you bend your knees. Okay.
Nicely done.
There. Stay in the basket until I get out. So he should be able to get in that gate right there.
I thought so, yeah, but he drove around as though he couldn't, so.
Isn't there like 3 things in the middle of it?
That gate?
He's telling me something at the church.
Is that gate not unlocked? What's you think? Pretty amazing, huh? See why one would be addicted to this. Gonna wait and make sure he can get in that gate. I'm pretty sure he can, but I'm gonna keep it hot and upright just in case we do need to walk it.
Yeah, and the worst case is if we had to walk it over the fence towards the church, that would be okay, I think.
Right.
Oh, by the way, you can feel how strong this is.
Yeah, I did.
It's-
I felt it as soon as we got it upright.
It's not as rigid, of course,
Sure.
but
Sure, it's good enough to hold on to.
yeah.
Lock it on us?
Sort of the way he's acting, isn't it?
I mean, I've been in here somewhat recently.
Yeah.
They lock it on us? Is it locked?
Locked. Probably take it apart, but would that be easier than just walking it? It looks like there's plenty of room right on the other side of that gate.
Well, I got power lines and stuff, but I'm not comfortable walking it that direction. If we walked it anyway, it'd be over here to the church. I'm just surprised that
Because
that...
right there from where your truck is at,
Yeah.
back is big open field.
On this side of the road.
On this side of the road.
On this side of the road, that side of the fence?
That side of the fence, this side of the road.
Okay.
Yeah, it's...
Basically where the signs are and that black truck is parked.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, my concern is that that's really close to those power lines. And so I'm not...
Parking lot.
I mean, I think I'd prefer to walk it over here to this church. That's my thinking.
Okay.
So,
Truck sort of pulled up and I thought maybe they were going to do something useful,
Right,
but maybe
I
they're just
thought so.
spectators.
so yeah. So, think we can do it with just you and Travis?
I think so.
Those power lines are on the other side of the road.
I know.
Yeah, but you
But I'm
develop
a-
some momentum and you can't recover.
Yeah. So,
We don't need to help you
I
walk
think-
or go pull the ride around.
let's
Walk and then
do that, Dave. I'm gonna have you go ahead and get out.
I'll hop out and let's plan to go
Plan to
straight
go back
across.
that way?
It'll be because the wind's going this way.
Yeah.
So if we sort of try to walk straight across, then if we could lay down between the fence and the building, or if we really like what the parking lot looks like, we can get closer to it, or you know, whatever.
I
But
noticed there are a lot of stakes
yep.
in that field there, but
And it's important to remember it's Sunday morning,
yes.
and so that parking lot could get full.
Very
I don't know
quickly.
what time their service is, but it,
right.
you know, arguably it could be sort of nowish.
Right.
So, okay, I'm gonna hop out. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, make sure you got your hands on the vent. Worst case scenario, we end in this field, it's not that big a deal.
Right. I picked this field because I was just in here the other day.
Oh, you were?
So I'm surprised. That gate was open.
I wonder if that's why it's locked now.
Possibly.
When you talked to the lady in the van, what was her?
She told me that I could get in here from that gate.
That's what I thought.
Try and pull it north. I'm just trying to go straight.
Who was the lady in the racer?
Meg.
Skelton.
You see where she ended up?
Okay, so what are you thinking?
Well, we definitely have a wind that way. And I full well know how difficult it is to walk backwards against the wind.
What'd you think for your first flight?
I like it.
Yeah? the skip right there?
Sure is. That makes 6 of us in the air today. He
5.
took up.
There's 5. Yeah, 5.
Skip A5.
Skip made 5.
You, Corey, Terry, Meg, and Skip.
Joe.
Oh, Joe. That's not Skip. Or is it? That's Joe.
That one's
That's
Joe.
who I was thinking, Joe.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, his top came out. We had to lay it back down and reset the top. And
Okay, so I think if we're really careful, I think we can walk just to the right of the, just between these two
Yeah.
signs,
Yeah.
and put the basket on, almost right where she's parked,
Okay.
and lay it down across the proverbial hood, if you
Okay.
will. And we'll stay left of that light pole. That tree's plenty of distance away.
Okay.
And then what we'll do is I think we'll just be sort of motivated to pack quickly so we're out of the way.
We have anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour before church will start. You can either start at 9:45 or 10:45. So, and since there's already cars here, it's either going to start at, in between 9:45 to 10.
should I run in and ask if it's okay, or do it
I think
fast?
we'll go ahead and just take it for now.
All right. So,
Okay, why don't you go ahead and climb out, and then we'll do the walking bit carefully. Oh, go ahead and see we can sort of move up behind this red car at least. That way, the truck's not a hazard. Okay, let's stay to the right of the water. I don't want to linger too long because there's a risk that the wind will pick up.
Can you tell any difference without the upright?
no.
Okay, then let's go left. Okay, I'm liking that. What do you think about that?
Okay. Yeah. So, yep. All right. Let me go ahead and turn off my fire.
Okay.
I think we're gonna go that way. Oh, that does not help. Gotta turn off those first. Or we're just bleeding a whole bunch of. Hey, right there, straight that way.
Okay, I think you're pretty cold. You're gonna help
Yeah,
him.
definitely cold. It's all yours.